4, 3, 2. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another episode of The Full Set. We've missed you all so much. My name is Didi Delgado, and I am your hostess with the mostess. I am here with my esteemed colleague, Ejaris Dixon. And if y'all don't know what I know, I want to get y'all familiar. Ejaris, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I'm about to read your bio so everybody can flex bomb right along with me. And then I'm going to make sure your link for Vision Change Win for people to donate to y'all's programming is up in the pinned comments. So welcome me and walk with me in welcoming Ejaris Dixon, who is a Black queer feminist organizer and political strategist with 20 years of experience working in racial justice, LGBTQ, anti-violence, and economic justice movements. They are the executive director of Vision Change Win Consulting, where they partner with organizations to build their capacity and deepen the impact of their organizing strategies. They also serve as a consultant with Roadmap Consulting, a national social justice consulting team. From 2010 to 2013, Ejaris served as the deputy director in charge of the community organizing department at the New York City Anti-Violence Project, where she directed national, statewide, and local organizing and advocacy initiatives on hate violence, domestic violence, police violence, and sexual violence. From 2005 to 2010, Ejaris worked as the founding program coordinator of the Safe Outside the System Collective at the Audre Lorde Project, where they worked on creating transformative justice strategies to address hate and police violence. They are the co-editor of Beyond Survival, Strategies and Stories from the Transformative Justice Movement, which was released early 2020 by AK Press. Gang, gang. Her essay, Building Community Safety, Practical Steps Towards Liberatory Transformation, is featured in the anthology, Who Do You Serve? Who Do You Protect? Police violence and resistance in the United States. Their writings and analysis have been featured in Truth Out, New York Times, Huffington Post, Spin Magazine, CNN, the New Civil Rights Movement, the New York Post, NY1, and City Limits. Last, but certainly not least, because this was a little humble brag I stumbled upon, in 2012, the White House, the real White House, recognized Ejaris as both an emerging LGBTQ leader and selected them as a featured speaker on violence against Black LGBTQ communities. They received a bachelor's degree in African American Studies, darling, at Yale University, and a master's degree in public policy and nonprofit management at New York University's Wagner School of Public Service. Ejaris, welcome to the Full Set.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. Oh, tolerating the bio. I mean, I appreciate you and I appreciate the research. And also I'm just like I'm still a regular human.
Yes.
And so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited that you're here. I was telling my boo, I was like, this conversation has been like 3 years in the making. I'm very, very excited. This is Subdued Didi. I don't know if you knew that. This is
Okay.
this is the Didi that's like melodramatic. I'm wallowing in my despair. I'm super happy I'm married, super sad that I'm not around other people I want to be with right now. It is what it is.
Wait, like on
How
the
are you
DD
doing?
scale, like what
On a
number?
Didi scale?
Yeah.
I feel like you knew me in a past life because how did you know that I measure my success or myself on a scale daily? On a scale of 1 to 10 in pure deediness, I'm operating at a 4.6 right now.
All right, that's good. That's good.
I got my makeup done so I could be a 7, but we landed at a 6.3. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm a little subdued for me, but I think that'll be fun for this conversation because I don't feel like I have to perform, which feels good,
Mm,
right? I don't have to use my authoritative voice, or I can just be myself. So I'm chill. I'm happy to be myself, but I may not be super animated, and that's just because like these days are long. These days are long.
so long or short, depending on what
Mm.
you were trying to get done in them.
Yes, the task's short, the day long, and we all tried.
We all tried. I really appreciate that you say that a lot. I hear it and I'm like, what does she mean by that? We all tried.
Oh, I mean, it's just like I've been working on so many, like my life's work is really big, are really big things. How do we transform communities? How do we end violence, right? So if I measure myself and my success or whatever, my even progress on like, well, was that community transformed today? It's it
Was
feels
it?
yeah, right?
Was I
Like it
successful?
was that right? Like it could feel demoralizing, right? I want
Mm-hmm.
to hold myself to how I show up. Did I show up as my best self? Did I give what I have to give? Was I as honest as I could be? Did I move from integrity? Right? Did I apologize when I should have apologized? Was I humble when I needed to be humble? Right? And was I assertive when I needed to be assertive? Right? Like that. That's kind of what I mean by like, yeah, we tried. We tried. Um, we're trying to be our best selves here in the midst of, I don't know, multiple pandemics. Shoot.
In a world that tells us that we are already our best selves and then like confuses us with tenets of self-care that doesn't really make sense if you're a marginalized person, right? How do we balance what we've been told about ourselves versus who we are in the world in which we're trying to live in? How like what does that look like? What does that look like for Egeris, first of all? And then what does, as an individual, and what does that look like for the collective community that Egeris is a part of?
I mean, maybe I'll unpack it in a couple of different ways because I want to take you.
That's
I want
valid.
to take.
I
I want
wasn't
to
even
take.
expecting that question. My ancestors was like, "Can you ask her?" Like,
I know. I was like, oh, you've got those ancestors. Got it. Okay. You don't have the ancestors that are like, tell me what's on your desk. No, you've got like, let's go into the deep transformative questions. So the first part of your question, as I remember it, was around like being like knowing we're inherently our best selves, right? Which I and doing that under marginalization, oppression, um, that's its own journey, right?
right,
Like that is its own journey. That is like the for me, it's the long arc of self acceptance, and then the daily remembering of both self acceptance, self forgiveness. I don't know. Short example. So I just turned 40 like a couple weeks ago.
why are you lying?
No, I'm
I've
serious.
gotten in trouble before for saying that someone didn't look their age, but I thought that you and I were in the same age group.
Mm-mm. I just turned 40. I know.
Well,
It's
congratulations on another year marker.
yeah, no, I'm so baby faced. There's so much that I have to that like there's so many ways that within like, white heteropatriarchal capitalism, there's a lot that's hard when you got all the experience. When I've been working this hard for this many years and I
And
look
people
like
are like, "Are you still in grad school?"
yeah, and like don't let me walk down the street with a backpack on now, right? Like what high school you go to though? Like
Right,
it's right.
right.
So what was I saying? There's so my friends worked their asses off to provide, and I haven't even had the time to fully thank them to provide this incredible birthday experience for me because I was sad because I was like, pandemic 40th? Come on now.
Right,
Like,
right, right,
why even celebrate? Like, let me
right.
just take a nap. And so, what's changed in me is I felt all the same old parts of me that wanted to like they did a choreographed dance and then they had a slideshow of like 20 years of pictures of me and then they fundraised for a gift. They like did the most, right? And I could feel my old self being wanting to be like, shut this down, too much attention, stop it, stop, we've been talking about me too long, right? And in the person I'm increasingly becoming, I was able to say,
The
I,
person I'm increasingly becoming.
you know, like I was able to say, I see you're uncomfortable, Ejaris, and you're gonna just sit with it because these people love you, and I
Mm,
know you don't know if you deserve it, but let's try to see it from their eyes, like and just sit with your discomfort, right? And learn to accept that maybe you deserve it, right? And so,
That mirror work, but in the shadows, it'd be so dark to see yourself, but I'm glad you did
ooh,
that.
yeah, it was, and I even learned things about myself I didn't know, right? Like, and I could like people, a lot of people were like, "You create a sense of home for us," and I was like, "Oh,
Mm,
that's because that's really important to me to have for me, and I just wanted y'all with me in it, right? Like all of us who may not have that." So I forgot your question now because now I'm just rambling.
that's fine. I forgot the question too. Basically, I was asking you because I don't have
Oh,
anything
self
written down.
care.
Self-care. It's like knowing what you've been taught about yourself, and then this incestuous desire for folks to be like engage in self-care, engage in self-care, engage in self-care. But as a marginalized person, how do you do that?
Right.
Not only for yourself, but within community.
And what is self care under late stage capitalism, right?
A question for the ages.
And I'm not, it's not a contention. It's more, I had to figure out what works for me. So, what works for me, what takes me out of self care, like, I had to actually think about that. Like, okay, why are you working so much and what shifts things? And so, a couple things shift things. Like, I'm right now in a moment where, like, I've been working on abolition for a while, transformative justice. I do work on Black organizing. I do work around um, safety at protests. So like all these like little niche things I do are now big deals. So it's a ton of pressure on me.
Right.
Right. And so my self care for me, like turning away from that, it'll still be in my head. I'll still be thinking about the people who ask me for things and what they need. Right. So self care for me is how do I support more people to have the skills that I have so I can have more people hold this torch?
Come on, Lao Tzu. You you a great leader when you create other leaders.
Right,
Okay.
right, like
Like,
it's really like, and that's what helps me relax, where I can literally say like, no, I'm not going to do this because I'm resting and you're in great hands because so and so is, right? And some of that is
okay.
like me making sure I know like a whole host of people, and then what information do I have to pass on. So I think true self-care, and especially like all of us who are helpers who like help hold up community in so many ways, and any of us who've ever experienced the impact of both the exhaustion, like the things that you forget to do because you were tired, and then when you actually are also faced with the impacts, which I think, like, I don't know, you're a parent, like there's just things like sometimes, right, like we're not, our self-care is not in a vacuum, right? we're
Right.
we're in this like interconnected web of humans. So sometimes it's like this thing can wait. Awesome. Sometimes it's like there is somebody waiting for this thing. And I did survivors, right? I worked on violence for a really long time.
Right.
The If there's like a key to survivor support, it's consistency, right? Like when somebody has had their trust, their safety disrupted, um, they often don't know who and what to trust. So you need to be consistent with the little things. I'm gonna call you at 3 and you call at 3, right? I'm gonna get you this thing. I'm gonna get you this referral. I'm gonna be there for you, right? Because,
Right.
right, like that's how, that's like you're building a relationship, but you're also supporting their ability to trust again. So that stuff and the self care in that context, it meant that I had to figure out, like, it's like, I don't know, like a gas pedal, like when to go, when to stop. It's not linear, right? Like my self-care is cyclical. It's about like, this is the time to go in and this is the time to pull back. Or, okay, if there's these things that need to be done, then you're taking some time off at this point, you know? So it's, I think we want a simple narrative and formula around self-care. And I think
Right.
when you're in community and you're holding community,
Mm,
um, it is a conversation in community.
a conversation and community. I appreciate that. One of our community members said that Crystal said, my self-care is caring for others at this point in my life.
Mm.
And I feel really sad to hear that. I know that it is a joy for someone like her to care for other people. She's a fucking cancer. And also, like, I just want to love you, right? Best friend. But it's like, how do we not mule ourselves at the expense of ourselves, because like if we're pouring into everyone else, how do we pour back into ourselves when we've been taught that we should be an afterthought, you know?
I mean, and I think it's also knowing inside of ourselves who the care is for.
Mm.
Like, so sometimes it's just like, I don't know. I cook this big Easter dinner for my friends. And
You cook?
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Yes.
And you in Brooklyn? Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Like, and like both, like my mom cooks, my dad cooks, we cook, right? Cooking is like, food is a love language for me, right? I'm much better at like,
a poet too. Food is a love language.
No, I'm I am, you will know that I love you because of the plate I made for you before I'm able to articulate those words, right? Like that's how I care. That's how I love. So I have this friend who would always get so stressed out. Like, you spent all this time making this meal and you're so busy and isn't this? And I was like, I am so excited. I am so excited to like plan these ingredients and shop for them. And I've learned that if at some point it stops being fun, even in the midst of cooking it, I stop. And I'd be like, y'all, it's Popeyes tonight, yo.
Right. Y'all better get these biscuits and honey.
Right. Like that's what we got. Like I got tired, y'all. I stopped. Right. So I think it's also I think the joy of care is fine. But when we're trading things, right? Because sometimes we're in I don't know, like a quid pro quo that we didn't even tell the person we were in, right? If I do this for you, you'll do this for me. If I show up for you, you'll show up for me.
What I like to call slight expectation.
Right. But we don't ask for it. We just, right? That's the stuff we need to, like, even when it's generosity, there can still be manipulation, right?
Right.
Like,
are you of the team that manipulation is a normatively negative word?
No, because it's like no, because I'm
like as a manipulator, I need to know your answer. Like,
I am a long-term and well-trained organizer, so I understand persuading people. Right? Like it's yeah. So, if we have to push our people towards change, right? I'm okay with that. If we are doing things to exploit people, to harm our communities,
right?
Like, a tactic's a tactic, and the tactic can be neutral. It's the context and values that are surrounding it.
I might get that tattooed on my shoulder. A tactic is a tactic. Thank you so much for that cosign. I want to shift gears for a second because I want to talk. I know I'll be asking about you and then I'll be asking about your work because I want you to know that I do view those two things as separate entities. I know a lot of times that as an organizer, as a Black femme, that we get caught up in the things that people can see.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm keeping those two lines actually open but separate. So I want to talk with you about beyond survival strategies and stories from the transformative justice movement. As soon as I found out that you was a part of this book, I literally was like, sign me up, Scotty. Like, you know, I was like, I need to know what E'Jaris is out here like creating, like, you know, and I put my name on the list, but I didn't know that it was a press publishing company. You got to then like pay them. like you know what I'm saying? So I ain't got a copy of the book, but I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it.
You would. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't throwing it out there. I'm just saying that my name is still on the list. I have the email. And then I didn't read, I'm a skimmer. And that's my problem. You know, when you're this light, you know, you always straddle the fence about, oh, well, I just know what I need to know, whatever. And I did the wrong thing. I should have read the email, which said, when you receive this email, please mail us a check for $175,000. No, how much is it? Like $16. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is an anthology of anthologies of anthologies, and it's only $16, you know?
The ebook might be like $2.99 right now.
Shut the front door. Is it
Yeah.
on Audible?
It's not on Audible because now this is me, like Leah, right? Like, so my co-editor Leah Lakshmi Pyapsna Samarasinha, who's like written mad books. She's the one who knows this stuff more than me. We play different roles. I was like, what's happening? But so my understanding of how the audiobook stuff works is that we get approached to then record it. So that, like, because there have definitely been people been like, why isn't there an audiobook? Why didn't y'all do that? And I was like, it's not like we just like hop up on YouTube, y'all, and like
like, what's that?
We're like, page what? You know?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Like that's but the ebook I think is $2.99. A lot of the pieces are also available online. I think the book it's gorgeous. I'm never gonna tell people that, like, you know, you have to pay for things in a particular way, but like sometimes, I'm sure you've felt this, sometimes we do things, we're like, it's done, right? Like, I am proud of that book. I'm not just because I'm not promoting it in that way, like I'm literally like, there are things I've worked on and I'm like, this I'm proud of. Like, I'm proud of the intentionality. I'm like, because like we were intentional from, how is this going to stay practical? How is something so heavy going to be a tolerable read, right? Like, how is it not going to overload people's systems? How is it going to be understandable, right? Like, is this a book my auntie can understand, right? Because like transformative justice, you could already lose people in those two words, right?
Someone did ask me, they're like, because, you know, niggas is out here using abbreviations, and someone's like, can't wait for this conversation on TJ and accountability. And the other person was like, all right, let me be the person to ask, what's TJ? I was like, transformative justice. And I realized that us doing things like that does make, even though we're talking about topics that we should be talking about, we need to be able to meet everyone where they're at if we really want to see change and in a transformational way.
Honey, so our first book event, my uncle, my aunt, my mom, and my brother come, which was its own situation, because
of course it was.
It was its own situation for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I see I like hang out that night with friends because I was like, I'm not ready to do the like deep, like my like kind of blood family life and my like work life can be very different, and you know, when they intersect, it's a lot for me, right? So I was like, I'm gonna debrief with the family later. The next day, so we at the house, and my brother was like, what is TJ anyway? And then my mom is like, transformative justice.
You're like, all right, mama, you go ahead and tell the story.
Right. my mom was like, your uncle should have had a story in that book because he's had experiences of the police doing this, that, and the other. And I was like, yes, Mom, it's not about quote unquote experts. There are things you learn from holding violence. There are things I've learned, right? There's things I knew as a survivor. The combination of the two are important, right? There's like lived experience, and then there's like, yeah, the expertise of the work. And right, like these are stories and strategies that are within us, right? Like every single person I've met, every single like person of color, and particularly Black person I've met, because I used to do this when I facilitated groups, everyone has a transformative justice story in their family. Mm. Everyone does, because we have. What
is transformative justice?
It's how we address violence without police and prisons.
Oh shit. Are we on the full set, or are we on the full set? Right. Just wanted you to make that bridge so that folks know we're not talking about something different. And you don't have to give a history and synopsis of it, because I feel like this is a different type of conversation. And folks should go and read the book. I think also too, what I want to ask you is who are some people, because people always act like transformative, restorative, community accountability, and justice, all that is a new concept, and it isn't. There have been indigenous practices, both within Native American communities and, you know, certain countries in Africa, where these things have been passed on, and we just not really adapting to them. But what would you say is I want to be succinct in my questioning. What would you say is a good way for someone who was unfamiliar with transformative justice or restorative justice, for them to identify it for themselves so that way they could be interested in digging deeper into the work of what it might mean or what kind of tools are out there for them to continue that work? Was that a long-winded question? But I felt like it made sense.
It made sense, and then I'll tackle what I can, and then
Okay.
bring me back and through. Uh,
Elle Hearns just joined and she said, I love this. We love Elle. Oh my God.
I love Elle so much. Hi, Elle. So let's see. Because
you were saying that you were saying that in every family there's a transformative justice story.
Yeah. Well,
so how do you identify that story?
Yeah. Like I literally so one of my essays in the book is about me asking my mom, because my mom grew up in New Orleans, and she left New Orleans to go to California, where I was born, in the late 60s. And I was like, the police, in my understanding, would have been like white citizens council and Klan. So what did y'all do about violence?
Right.
And they literally had folks on her block. Now, it wasn't like these are the anointed folks on the block. Like it's not like we are the Anti-Violence Commission. It was like dudes. Which
them niggas on the porch.
And one was like a teacher, right? But folks who had stature, who then, when there was a neighbor that they had that was often, there was a couple and a man was beating his wife often, and they would just go over there and say, that's not going to happen, right? That's a transformative justice story. You at the club with your friends, when someone grinds up on your friend, and your friend doesn't want that to happen, and you stand between your friend and the person, that's a transformative justice story, right? Like, it's literally, and yes, and it is also when you talk to when your friend's partner calls you and tells you things that your friend has done in that relationship, and you sit your friend down and you say, I heard these things, and what do you need to change, and how do
right.
I move you through that, right? So I think it's so many of those things, and I think it's important for us to demystify it and to show us how deeply practiced we are. I'm both, I love the conversation we're having around imagining a new world and how we're going to create anti-violence systems, and I also find the conversation a form of erasure. We have been doing this. We have been doing this, right? From, I don't know, civil rights leaders and their security details.
Right.
Right? To like we have practices. Now, what they need are support, infrastructure, scaling up. And, let's be real about if I'm just talking within Black communities, then we need to talk about classism. We need to talk about colorism. We need to talk about patriarchy. we need to talk about homophobia. We need to talk about transphobia and cissexism. Yes, there are some concepts of safety and who can keep people safe and how we do it.
Right.
And we can address that too, right? But that's the part I want to work on around so this is how we do it usually, right? I call my cousin or XYZ, right?
Bop, bop.
Right? And sometimes some parts of that will still happen, right?
Right.
But and for me, when I open myself up to these possibilities, and believing in them, there's just shit I've seen from dudes on the block interrupting anti-trans violence, which is shit that people don't think should go together.
Right.
But when we keep building connections and recognizing all the ways we're affected by policing and hold each other to those connections, and some of us are connectors, I'm definitely one of those who's I can code switch a lot, I can be in a lot of places. And not everyone can do that because of oppression or access or for a whole host of reasons. But our problems start when we give up on each other.
Is it Tuesday or Sunday? I don't Our problems start when we give up on one another. Who are the people, scholars or otherwise, because some of y'all ain't that fancy, Yale education or not. Who are the people that taught you what you know?
Who are the people that taught me what I know? Angela Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this very fascinating story where I was in the midst of navigating some really intense survivorship for me. And I picked up her autobiography, and I was 17, I think. And this may not be the most transformative story, but like I was like, shit, this bitch running from the FBI. Shit, I'll be fine. And I want to do that, right? Like,
right.
So once I realized that there is a Black woman's revolutionary tradition, I was like, holy shit, right? Like, holy shit, I want to be a part of that. Who else taught me what I knew? When I first got to New York, I worked with this group called Community Voices Heard, and some of it was brutal. Like, I'll just be real. They know this. I've said this to them. Some of this was brutal. It was like a paid internship, but I had to do outreach and talk to people every day for like 4 to 5 hours.
Do you like people?
Day. Only sometimes.
Okay, that's
but
valid.
Right, but you learn stuff about yourself when you have to talk to, like, even like, because I was going through a breakup at the time. I didn't want to talk to people. I wanted to like cry, but I also needed to make some money, and that was my job. And I was like, there are worse jobs, right? There are worse jobs. I'm gonna go talk to people about their rights.
Right. You're like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Right. That's what I'm gonna do. So there is something where people taught me, like everyday conversations with people taught me. Like one I remember was I was door knocking in Staten Island, and I was by myself, which is back in the days where people door knocked alone, where I think like we've all grown up now and we don't do that no more, which is safer. But either way, I was door knocking by myself. This older man, he was home, and I kind of broke all the rules, but he was like,
broke all the rules.
Well, yeah, like he was like, I'm alone here and I have lunch. Would you come inside? And I did. And he had fried all this fish.
Was it haddock or whiting?
It wasn't neither. It was catfish.
I knew you was gonna say cat. I said, if this nigga fried some catfish, I know you stayed.
Right, I stayed. And he served me all this food, and his daughter had passed away a year or two before. And he was like, you remind me of her, because I had just started with talking to him about, I don't know, some initiative, some petition, something like that. He was like, will you come in and eat with me? And he showed me pictures of his daughter. And I remember that, like, that day I did not want to door knock. I did not want to talk to people. I was tired. It was hot.
Right.
I was in my feelings. And like, because there are so many ways, particularly as survivors, where the people have not been safe, there is something that we learn every time the people are. And so, like, I don't remember his name. I kind of remember where he lived, but I was like, I just walked in some strange man's apartment and had lunch and talked to him about his daughter. And
I feel like you're living life on the edge. I feel like that's the life that I lead. I mean, you didn't do that wrong.
Right. And I wanted to know that, I think it's important that we know that, like, yeah, we can, like, strangers can become community. So the people taught me. Who else taught me what the first training I went to on transformative justice was done by Mimi Kim, who wrote the Creative Interventions Toolkit, which is long, but free.
Super long.
500 pages. But literally, you know what? 1 chapter a week with your friends. You don't need to go to a training. 1 chapter a week with your friends. So she taught me a lot about transformative justice. But
Who
also,
would be the people today that you would say you were like, oh, I'm doing my self-care shit. These are the people who are in place because I'm tired and I need to drink my tepid, lukewarm coffee so I can have this conversation with Didi Delgado. And you call this person instead. Don't lean on me for nothing. Who are those people? Because I feel like people
yeah.
don't, I love what you said, that people think that this is something new and it really isn't. You know, who are your peers?
Ooh, I mean, I have a, like, my peers are all like, so like Shira Hassan, I adore. Me and Miriam Kaba, like, she's incredible. She's impeccable.
Amazing.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I also have like peers in different, I don't even know if it's like peers, elders, but like in terms of like groups doing transformative justice, I'm really excited about the New York Transformative Justice Hub,
Okay.
doing a ton of trainings and public programming. Mia Mingus and the Bay Area Transformative Justice Collaborative, they are doing incredible work. I've been working with this group, CJA, California Youth Immigrant Justice Alliance, and we've been working on like how do they do transformative justice work within their org. Like, there's a lot of amazing. Um, there's a lot of amazing. I can't even. Sorry, I can't even name all of it. I mean, Elle, if you're still listening, we love the Marsha P. Johnson Institute.
We love the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. We love Ella Hearns, period.
Yeah. And, but also the fact that like the ways that Black trans women are in a particular formation right now around, here are the strategies that we need to be safe, and here's how all y'all.
Because Elle's
like,
been telling us for a long time. It's just whether or
honey.
not we've been implementing it or not.
honey, and that like Black people need, and I mean all people need to support the lives of Black trans women.
Yes.
But we need to also just not do it right after murder, right? Like there's everything that
needs
happens
to be.
before.
It needs to be all the time.
Right. It's a daily practice. So yeah.
Dr. Shamel Bell just joined and said, yes. I told you have fans.
Ooh, I don't even know. But it's, I mean, and yeah, I'm probably doing a disservice if I can't remember everyone who taught me, which is fine because.
No, it's fine. Come back to the post and let folks know like who they can follow.
And all these people.
Because I mean, I feel like your niche is many things, and I feel like you're not just a transformative justice, a restorative justice person. You know, I've even heard the term community accountability, right? You're not just that person, you're much more than that. And something I've been working on is relationship justice. And how the interconnectivity of all of these social advocacies actually impacts the way that we say that we're trying to be in relationship with one another, whether it's familial, platonic, or romantic. And like how I don't think people have really like delved into that. At some point, I'll be reaching out to you because I want you to write a chapter in my book. But yeah, I think it's a very important topic to me, and I think that people really haven't explored it to the depth that I would like. I mean, I just sit with so much stuff, and I'm like wanting to learn about myself, wanting to learn about how I show up, and not just when people have critiques of me, but also am I showing up, is the positive response because I'm showing up a different way, you know? So yeah, I'm really interested in that.
I think it's also about redefining what loyalty means, right? Like, so
no, because we just had this conversation. Well, romantically, we had the conversation about there's a difference between faithfulness and loyalty. Sometimes faithfulness can be synonymous with loyalty without meaning that you're only exacting one connectivity with one person, you know? But what did you mean it as?
I meant like sometimes people believe that loyalty to like our loved ones means like what's an uncritical affirmation of all of their actions.
Ooh. My shoulders is out here burning.
Right? Where it's just like, where like people expect loyal to be like, you right. girl, you were right. You always right.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
I am one of those people, right? Like I have
Are
a
you an
friend.
enabler?
I have been at times, and
Okay,
I'm
that's
also,
valid.
right. Like I have been at times, but it's also like I've always been trying to find my people because I don't have a
What's
meeting.
your sign, Egeris? We need to
Ooh,
know.
I'm a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. So right, and I'm really deeply like I just right. I'm ride or die. Right. I don't care what you did and what they said. Right.
My best friend is a Cancer. It's so
Right.
ridiculous. I'm like, leave me, bitch. Like,
It's no, we don't get it. But for me, loyalty also means, right, like we have to, there's a certain point in the friendship where you know your friends' patterns. You know them at their best and you know them at their worst. Or as another way of thinking about it, I think about it as like, you know their best selves and you know they're like often people have patterns and strategies to harm. You know why they did it, you know how they did it, you can predict it's about to happen, right? Like and so I think we have to make more space for the kind of loyalty that's like, I know you, love, and when I hear that this thing happened, that sounds like that could have been you.
mm-hmm.
So how do we talk about that, right? How do we move from that? And how do you hold that when your friend is like, you supposed to believe me uncritically? And it's like, I got you, but I mean, I don't know. But
Is
girl,
it
you
hard
show
having friendships, knowing what you know about now, not only yourself, but like the world and how you show up in it? Is it difficult?
Oh yeah, there was a point when I was at the Audre Lorde Project actually where I it really affected my ability to socialize. Like I kind of remember I it's not really the last party, but in my head it was like the last party because I
You're
was
like, it was the only party.
no, because I remember I was there and I was like getting it, and then somebody was like, "Girl, I am happy to see you. What happened to me was that," and I was just like, I'm not here to hold space for your violence. Right? But I didn't know how to, and then sometimes other shit would happen. I would see people who I knew were repetitively harmful, but it was like confidential. But then I could see them moving in community, and I would just be like, so I just became a hermit, right? I became a hermit. And so it's funny because we're on Facebook Live and I'm like, I'm not gonna spill all my stuff, but like there are times where I think of myself as like there are there's a lot that I learned through work
Mm-hmm.
that and some of it I learned through life, but there are ways that my own personal growth and personal development um, were sacrificed for my political development. So if
That's
there's a goal,
relatable.
right, like so if there's a goal, it's like what is the balance and there's like things like my friends just know about me, which I kind of hate, where they're like, Egeris will show up for you when you really when you know when they need me, I show up, but then I can be inconsistent, I can be absent, and it's often because I'm like in too many things, doing too
Right.
much stuff, got too much going on, or I meant to but I fell asleep, you know, or right, whatever.
How do you
um
deal with criticism when you're showing up that way? Because someone might look at you and be like, Egeris is out here over promising and under delivering.
Honey, yes I am.
Woo!
But I tried.
That mirror work. Yes.
Yeah.
I am over promising and under delivering. Next question.
I'm not gonna lie to you, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
also like, what is a successful response to a pandemic and an uprising?
Right.
Well, I
Okay.
got up again,
Right.
right? I got up again. So absolutely, and I've learned a lot of shit the hard way. Might be
Hey,
my
Jared,
primary way of learning. Yeah.
who do you write for and who do you love for?
Ooh. Hmm.
They
I
don't pay me no money to ask these questions. I'm telling you, I'll be over here over my free volition.
I think I write for my hope in most of my writing is to shorthand a hard lesson that to shorthand a hard lesson for someone else. Right? So, um, half there's a lot of stuff that I write that if you like dig into it, there's like a sad story in there. I may not say that because I like to keep a little bit of me for me, right? So there are some aspects of my writing that's like, so you don't fall on your ass like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I love and live for my friends, for the knowledge of things like the people who love me and the people I love. The only way I will be hungry is if they're all hungry too. Right? Like the only way my rent won't be paid is because nobody's rent got paid. Right? Like my bestie, we have this story of when we got real broke because those were our drinking days. And we like, I don't know if we were sharing a 2-piece chicken meal as like the meal of the day, or if it was 1 piece of chicken. But like that's love, right? All right, you want a bite? I take a bite, right? So
You were like, this chicken is so slow going into our systems, ain't it?
but that's so yeah. And I love for and really love showing up for like everyone who has the experience of the people they love letting them down, the people they love causing them harm, and who's trying to figure out how to trust again, right? Like that's
so we will never speak outside of this. I don't trust nobody.
Yes, you do.
Ma'am?
Yes, you do.
I trust myself.
So you rely on nobody.
I rely on my awareness of others. I think that's a trauma response. I think a lot of people call that empath. I call it my trauma response. I rely on reading a room very quickly and deciding who I can and cannot interact with. And that looks like to a lot of people toxicity. That looks like to a lot of people unapproachableness. But I'm knocking on my hardwood table right now. There's never been a time that my scan of the room has not proved me to be correct 3 months from the time I scanned the room. So I worry about what is my vulnerability, what is my responsibility to be vulnerable, and what is my responsibility to be safe. And if I'm not in spaces where I could be vulnerable because it's unsafe, because people are afraid of their own vulnerability and if it will be used against them, then I do find myself floating along. I'm on Didi Delgado Island, and I hate it here because I'm actually a really social person. So
now I want to know, like, when has this always been your relationship to trust, or is there a moment that you can remember being like, I'm not doing this again?
Since I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know Luana just joined and she's like, that's one of my spiritual advisors. So, it's something I think about, but it's something like obviously to be unpacked, if no one believes survivors, if no one believes, or if they just don't believe Black femme survivors, or if they don't, like how it gets deeper and deeper into the analysis. It's very difficult to even then begin telling a story again, or to be like, and this is why I should be believed. And so I just float, and there will always be the people who either believe or don't. And that's how I have framed my existence. You either with it or you're not, I can't believe I just said that.
Well, no, I mean, I think I want to delineate between like trust and like naivete, or like trust and survivor wisdom. Right. So like I think that there are survivor superpowers. And I have them too, right? yes, no, blah, blah, right? And I have started to just really accept my intuition as a gift
Mm. Accepting
and,
your intuition as a gift.
right, and using it as a skill set. And like, whether we want to talk about like our full potential or like where the places you can be in life, um, there is a level of like, I don't know how to say, I don't know if success is the right frame because I don't think that's it. Um, Being able to fully surrender into someone else or to have to fully rely on someone else. When it happens, right? Disability, health, blah, 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 right? There's some point where you have to do that. So the earlier we learn a level, how to tolerate independence when people have broken our spirits. I mean, I think it's one of those like really crappy imperatives. And that's what healing is, and that's what the process is. And I used to believe I wanted to be a robot, right? I was like,
Come on, Johnny number 5, talk to me about it.
I didn't like I don't want to rely on people. I
Right.
trust people to do what I've observed them to do. Like for me, trust was a mathematical equation, right? Like under these conditions, you do this. Under these conditions, you do this. I trust you to adhere to the rules and patterns that you have shown me. Um, and so I ended up in consulting. I would have never left organizing if I hadn't had kind of like a full health crisis, like full on, like,
I was gonna ask you, but also I don't like to get personal about other people's mental health when I barely talk about mine.
oh no, well, so it's both mental health and physical, right? It was just
Okay.
like I had not been taking care of myself. I have a series of injuries that manifest as chronic joint pain. I had
Are
left a
your knees
job.
giving out on you too?
Ooh, knees, back, both ankles, long story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have like my right foot was okay though. And then I left this toxic job and I was having a liberation party. I was carrying food. A stair literally broke underneath me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I didn't go that far. It was only a couple feet, but goddamn, right? But it meant that none of my joints were healing. And so I started consulting because I was pretty close to
You're
home
like,
wreck.
I need to sit my ass down. I'm not
Like
knocking on nobody's door.
I
No.
can't move. I can't move. I'm
Right.
stuck here. Like my life became about, and I still can deal with that level of pain. How am I going to do these dishes? Right? A life where like, and this is like very, like there are lots of disabled people who have this life where it's like so showering though. I was like, I can't stand long enough to shower. So I'm going to,
Right.
right? I remember when I was still trying to be self reliant. So I needed to put my AC in. I didn't want to ask nobody for help.
Did you try to put this on yourself?
Why did I get the rolly chair? I managed to like, it took me the whole day. Like, get the AC out the closet, like, try to like
It's
slowly.
not funny. I'm not laughing at your pain. I'm laughing at the visual of your pain.
Oh, it's like, but this is what I mean by trust. When self reliance goes wrong, right?
Okay.
Why am I spending a whole day hurting myself to put an AC in myself when I have severe chronic pain, right? Wouldn't it have been worth the risk to trust somebody? I didn't want no one to see me like that. I didn't want no one in my messy house. I'm fine. I can do it on my own. And then I didn't want nobody to fuck it up.
You have control issues.
Oh, just me? Just me?
No, it's me too. I don't know about all these other niggas watching, but it's me too. So you said something about trust and you kept saying it, and I was like, I was gonna scratch off question number 5. But I actually want to ask it now. Adrienne Maree Brown says in her small manifesto
Yes.
that a person becomes trustworthy when you begin to trust them. Period. Right. And I want to know about it's a hot topic, I feel like, because people don't want to see past, people want to unpack binaries when it comes to gender. We want to get rid of gender, right?
Mhm.
But when it comes to harm, because we've lived in a system in which we've been harmed so much, and we may not realize that we ourselves cause harm. What does it look like, knowing that Adrienne Maree Brown said that a person becomes trustworthy when you begin to trust them? Are people abusers because someone says that they're abusers? Are people are people canceled because someone says that they've been canceled? What does it look like to not have a tiering system? But I think about the whole reason why transformative justice has come about in the first place is to say this is the alternative to what we've been taught. But a lot of times, transformative justice processes replicate the same systems of harm that we say we are dismantling.
Yeah.
And that includes excluding people out of community. It includes punishing people for an unknown amount of years. Like, and so what does it, is there, the you stepped on my Louboutins. I don't like that bitch because she stepped on my Louboutins and them shoes cost me money and she never even agreed to pay for them. Problematic, black ass. I mean, is there a tier between that? A tier between I fucked your man, a tier between there's sexual assault. I mean, are there tiers? Like, I mean, are we getting rid of each other at an astronomical rate?
I mean, I think most of it, like, if I'm honest, I
And
know a
that's what I
lot
need you to be.
of, so many of us are, like, harm is a constant. Harm is as embedded in life, right? I don't know. That's why it's like, when we think about, like, like some of the genius and parable of the sower, right? And this part around like change being, right, a religion, change being, right? So like harm is also similar, right? This, like, everyone wants to not harm, never have harmed, never will harm, right? And that's the trap. We all cause harm and will continue to do so over our lifetimes. Hopefully, we learn, change, transform, and are held accountable. We can cause harm in our processes because we have all of these same systems either internalized or we have power and privilege within them. And that doesn't mean we don't do the work of both transforming society, transforming ourselves, and holding each other accountable.
Right.
And I do think there are levels because my body knows there are levels and tiers, right? So that's how I think it's very, like, what's been important and critical is that we used to use a very legalistic way of thinking about violence. Is it assault? Is it this? And therefore these penalties and that, right?
Right.
And so we needed to be able to talk about spiritual abuse and spiritual harm and emotional harm and psychological harm, verbal abuse, right? All of these things. And I know for me, in my body, there's a difference between there's a difference around different forms of severity, right? Around different forms of violence and physical abuse. I don't think there's a strong, like, well, yeah, and some harms you can't come from. So are we gonna say, so yeah, murder is more severe. And as someone who spent a lot of time working on murder.
Because you've worked on all types of art. I guess I feel, can I just tell you how I feel? And then we won't
Tell
have to
me how
talk
you
about my
feel.
feeling ever again. I
No, I
feel
like
like a lot of people have like this baseline identification of what harm is because of violence that we have established in our homes, violence that we have experienced at the hands of white supremacy, and then it trickles down to familial romantic harm. And so I feel like a lot of times harm is exacted in our minds. Like when it happens, it's like, this feels fucking familiar, even if it isn't, or if it has tenets of familiarity. And I feel like a lot of us that are activists, and I'm speaking solely of um, the interconnectedness of the activist community, and not just activists. I think about before I became an activist, this was happening in the poetry community.
Mm,
It seemed like whenever you have, I think about Star King, and you have small groups of people, there's this interwoven interconnectedness that happens. And then because people don't have a praxis for how the community should operate, people are just like, no boundaries because we're living in this new world we always wanted to live in. There is harm that occurs, and we revert back to systems that have taught us, no, this is what happens when people do things wrong or incorrectly, or when people hurt us. And I also think that sometimes I have a medium-sized platform, and sometimes I use my platform to punish people, whether
mm,
it doesn't matter their ethnicity. I'm like, let me tell y'all about this bullshit that just happened to me today. And even though my feelings are valid, the way that I go about discussing my feelings isn't necessary sometimes, because I could just be like, that was the bullshit that happened to me today. And I could keep it to myself, or I could discuss it with my friends or my therapist or what have you. And so then that in itself, even though I'm wronged, that in itself then creates harm, right? And then if people notice that, I don't understand how we don't notice that harm can be multi-layered. It could be a multiplicity of harm. It could be, that this person, it caused a chain reaction. Now this person who was harmed is harming others. And it's like, we're so binary in our conversations about abuser and abused, because we know that we come from broken homes where domestic violence was prevalent. We know that there was financial abuse. We know. So it's like when we see it happen intra-community, we're immediately like cancel culture. And I've been actively working to be like, no, that shit totally did happen.
yes.
And what are the next steps?
I mean, I think, there's so much.
Ooh,
Um,
you're so cute. Ooh, this.
there's so much. Well, no, like all of us
Well, because it
who,
goes to your question of safety, right?
right.
So we could talk about harm all day long. But if you know that there's these tenets that no one agrees upon, like very few people are doing the work that you're doing, right? Like to dig deeper, to be like, there's a duality here, that there's multiplicity, there's these levels, there's these thoughts that you can have, there's loyalty you can still have without discarding the person. There's still, yes, we are Black femmes, right? And can hold space for one another, even though I don't like the shit that you said 23 months ago. Like, how do we practice safety with one another, knowing that if we know, don't get me
Mhm.
started preaching on a Tuesday, if we know that all of us are capable and have most likely harmed someone.
Yeah, I think we have to stop trying to win, meaning,
Come on, Vision Change win.
right? No, but I mean, like, I think people are trying to do this thing that's impossible. At the end of my life, I've never harmed anybody, right?
Mm.
Right? Which creates denial, which creates a lack of change, which, and also we're all trying to, one, never be the people who harmed us, the people who are violent to us, our abusers. And there's a lot of ways that, especially like harm and violence that people weren't accountable for, that breeds a deep desire for punishment, retribution, whatever it is, right? But the biggest, deepest issue is that, like, punishment doesn't change people. Punishment doesn't transform people. Punishment doesn't make it stop. And when and sometimes punishment doesn't, like, there are people who I think punishment, they can feel better, but there are times when even that happens, they're like, oh, I don't even feel better.
Right.
So if we reconstructed our expectations, because I know in like political community, there's a lot of people trying to like what I would call not catch a process.
Why did I just laugh inside my vagina and then it came up? Bitch, I'm not trying to catch a process either. That's what I say to myself.
Right? But you know what, right?
I know
So
exactly what you're talking about. So they keep it clean, they keep it cut, and they also call out consistently.
yes,
Just to keep the heat from coming their way.
right, and it's not transformation either. So I think it's I don't have an answer other than we keep learning from what holds accountability. We keep learning from everyone who every successful process, every successful program, every successful moment in all of our lives. And it's complicated because I've worked on so many multiple forms of violence and some simultaneously I've also seen shit, right? I've seen shit that we don't even that's like feels more complicated than people want to talk about.
Right.
I've worked with survivors who are experiencing one form of violence, so who are experiencing state violence and police violence, who are harmful at the same time, but I didn't know because I was like doing something else with them, who are harmful in their relationships at the same time, which I'm sure was connected to stress
Of course
and
it was
trauma and
connected.
but right. And so, but because the state makes us put the state and funders make us put violence in all these little boxes that don't connect to each other. We don't even so like and and of course it's about navigating trauma and that's about navigating healing and about because what people want are this person who did nothing wrong nothing wrong, right? This like lack of complication, except like life is complication, right? So this survivor that I'm working with that's also causing harm at the same time, people be like, well, discard this person or this person is doing something wrong. And I'm like, this person is causing harm. They're experiencing harm. And they're in severe pain.
Right.
Like that's the through line. They're in severe pain that needs to be attended to both help them heal from what's happening to them and help them because what they're trying to do is like I'm trying to have some power over because I feel all this power that this system has on top of me. Doesn't make it okay, but it does make it understandable enough where we can see the humanity in it and how we shift that. Everybody here is trying to like be these little false fronts like they never been human, right? And this whole if we could make transformation or being held accountable something we celebrated in each other, then we would shift all these dynamics that people are doing all these dances to avoid it, right? Did you hear about Ejaris? Did you hear about Dee Dee? Da-da-da-da-da. Not so perfect now. None of us are trying to be perfect.
Well,
I'm trying to make, well, I'm trying to make some good mistakes.
You write poetry?
I don't. I have like one bad poem I wrote in high school that I thought I was gonna
I want to
like,
read it.
I should find it.
I want to read it. I want to be like, come on, bad poem, come out, talk to me.
Didn't everybody have their moment where they thought, like, you know, like,
No, bitch, I've always had good poems. Like
okay, so sorry.
I found a poem from 2006 that was called Fishbowl, and it was talking about how I'm a fucking fish in a bowl. I was like, this shit needs to go into a book. Who the fuck have I been my entire life?
No, I was dating poets and also
That's a problem.
also the coffee house that would do the performance event
Mm-hmm.
and as an 18-year-old was an easy place to get a drink. That's what I knew. When I was like in those like Mike's Hard Lemonade years or
Right. You were like, I'm out here twisted lemonade.
Y'all know what I'm talking about, where you can't handle the taste of liquor, but you want to be, you want to be down.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So are you dating anyone?
No, I am healing from hard relationships.
Do you ever feel like healing can be linear, like a parallel process? I want to say linear. A parallel process with being able to move forward. Like, say you have a job you're a
Hmm.
consultant, right? And you're out here, I'm out here on my healing journey, but you're also still like engaging in work that's like necessary and like engaging with other people, right? So do you feel like you could ever be in a relationship? I'm asking for myself, not for you, but do you ever feel like you could be in a relationship in which you were still healing, but you're like also along on a journey with the person while you're healing? Or do you feel like people should just be like, I can't find anybody until I find myself?
I've had so many different answers to that question over different parts of my life.
Okay.
And so I
Where you
I
at
don't
now?
know, where am I at
Where
now?
am I?
May I was like, maybe like, so my latest moment, because I was like maybe a year ago, I was like, this healing, this like I need to love myself, and it's not about other people loving me. I was like, that's bullshit. You know what people do? They get hurt, then they find the next one, and the next one makes them feel better, and they call that healed. Right? Like that's that's what we doing out here. But I'm literally starting to feel that within myself. So I think yes, it can be. And I also think like there's all the things we call a healthy relationship, and then there's like what relationships really are and what it is to be in connection with other people. So like two people fully healed, not causing some form of hurt or harm, that's a lie. It's really like do y'all have good communication? Do
So I
you
was like, I had to look down at the list. I was
ooh,
like, do we? I don't know.
do you get through hard shit well without one person having to lose themselves for the other?
Mm,
Right? Because like there's all these other complicated things that don't really fit into like all the relationship rules. Like the relationship rules are like don't lose yourself in someone else, be fully independent. And then there's the life rule
who
of
came
like
up with those rules?
I don't know, it's on a
I feel
book or
like
a
white people.
chart.
I want to blame white people for everything. So I mean,
I That's fine. They did a lot. But and then there's this whole other thing of like, okay, like yeah, don't lose yourself, be an independent person in your relationship. And then there's the like your partner gets a job somewhere else, right? So like I find these rules complicated and I like to observe them from afar because and I think if I'm really honest, I'm still negotiating because I've been like historically like either like single or poly in a very solo poly kind of way.
what the
Um,
fuck is solo poly?
I'm still learning, but no, mostly like I'm not in a lot of like primary relationships. I'm like I do like I'm seeing this person or seeing this person, but I still have a lot of control over my life. Like if I have
Mm,
a primary partner, it's the movement. I'm super clear. I even like will joke with people. I was like, you got to meet my girlfriend. She's called Vision Change Win. She is demanding. We have agreements, So um, all that is to say that that's still like if there's in the next iteration of the shit I'm learning,
okay.
how to feel because like I love the work I'm doing, right? I love it. I love to have the privilege to like live like I would say like for the first time like my life feels comfortable to me right now, which is scary and I feel almost guilty to say that in the midst of uprisings and pandemic, but like rent is paid, I got food, I'm good,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
I'm good. And like how many people get to be like materially fine and loving what they do?
Not many people.
Right? So if I'm there, I'm a little okay that my love life is a little like, like a hot trash fire, right? Like that could be the next task, right? Because, you know, I got an apartment I love. I have rent
I like
stabilized.
her. I like the apartment that I see. There's like three plants, some books, some artwork. It looks like a Brooklyn apartment to me. I'm telling you what I know.
It's Brook, I can see the skyline. This shit's rent stabilized. I got a parking space,
Come on, rent stabilization.
right? Like I'm not, it's fine.
He said
And
a parking space.
that's a big deal in Brooklyn, That's a big deal. We got a parking lot. Everyone's like, you what? So all of that is to say, there's a lot. Like, how do I have like fidelity to the work I do, right? Like I am committed on
Mm.
that level. So I need to
You should
figure,
do a class on that. How to
mm,
have fidelity to the work that you love to do.
I mean, yeah, like I'm And that's also why I can have that's what the depth of my work comes from, right? So, case in point, I had to work on a training today. Why did I pull out like some paper I wrote in grad school in 2006 on like hate, violence, transformative justice projects? But I was like, I love me. I love that I could just be like, I wrote something about this, like, 14, years ago. Oh, okay, these are the parts that are relevant. That's fidelity, that's consistency. Now, and I have the same thing with my friendships, right? I got some ride or dies been in my life for quite a while. Um, and yeah, how that all works out romantically, I have not figured out. This is the class that I'm ready to take. If you've got a class, I will take it. I will
I don't
learn. I
have no
will take.
class on fidelity.
I will.
I'm out here being disloyal to everybody.
Well, or right, it's the same. It's the flip side of what you said before. The hard to trust, right? It's
I think that that's something I definitely explain to my partners is I trust myself. And if you trust me, then you can like be on the roller coaster ride with me. And if the ride feels unsafe, I could let you off at the next stop, and then that just, I mean, it's just where I'm operating at. I'm not sure I'll always be here, but it's definitely where I'm at right now.
I mean, it's also like, what do I like to think about it in this way. Like, I got to wake up with me, right? Like, this is who I'm waking up with every day. This, like, I got to wake up, look in this mirror. So I'm holding myself to my goals and who I want to be and being my best self in it. And I want to be a good person for other people. But the love I learned was subsuming myself for others. So that's a slower, longer journey for me romantically, which I think is fine. Like, I was that kid who wanted to get A's in everything, and I wanted it all, right? Like, at this point in my life, I should have like partner, kids, car, like all those
You
things.
and you want to have children.
Oh,
Is this
Egeris.
is like what is there's a conversation happening clearly, like if you have kids during this pandemic, you're a fucked up individual, right? That goes back to the whole harm conversation and what people think is a binary thing. But there's also a complicity there. There's also like the desire to love uh parts of you that are extended, right? And so you want children.
Oh yeah, no. Like, not only do I want children, like Egeris Jr. will make the world better. We all want Egeris Jr. in this world. Like,
I love it here. Oh my God, I could see an Jarris Jr. in this universe. Yes.
oh yeah, that precocious ass child is gonna be amazing. So yeah, no, I do. I have no idea. I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm probably gonna like mess up, which I'm fine with, right?
That's valid.
Right. Like, I think also, like, right, isn't life as we get older being like comfortable with the mistakes we make? But
I didn't know that
yeah.
that was what life is about. But thank you for the information. Thanks, sis.
But it's
Woo! Missed a whole class on that one.
woo! Like, oh, missed that.
If you
Okay.
had a suggestion, knowing your history, knowing the many years that you dedicated to this work, if you had a suggestion for today's organizers regarding how to keep one another safe, because I feel like we get into this when we talk about protests. We have like security teams, and I've been logistics coordinator, so I know what I'm talking about. Like, we have security teams, we have marshals, we have medics, we have aftercare, we have all the things. How do we continue to keep each other safe outside of the protest?
Mm. That's the kind of loyalty I want.
Mm,
We can be transactional with each other in a
we
movement
super
space,
can.
right? So it's like, I've got you, I've got you. I walked you home after the protest, and then we don't check in on each other. We don't know anything else about each other. My favorite part of I have like these organizing movement familial relationships where we've been in all kinds of different organizations, different work, different formations, but we roll with each other, we roll deep for each other. And I have some people, I was about to say, I don't know if this is right or wrong, so I don't care. I have some people who are on my like forever yes list, meaning I know that you will only ask things of me that are truly needed. And when you ask of me, I will do everything within my power to meet that need.
It sounds like a diamond, a forever yes.
It's a forever yes. And you don't always got to tell people, right? You
don't have to let them know. You just have to do.
You just show up, right? So I think we have to show up for each other, right? We have to show up for each other. And it means that like sometimes you can only show up in that way for a certain amount of people. And that's fine. But because so many people come to organizing and activism out of oppression, that also means that they're coming from some form of heartbreak, some form of distrust, some form of like, will people love me here? Can I trust people here?
I just feel like, no, I mean, I totally identify with what you're saying. And also then I see the duality of those spaces becoming unsafe because people have this desire to win.
Yeah, well, all we win are, right? Like these people out here trying to kill us, it's clear. We're not going to win alone.
Right.
We're not going to win alone. As much as I love my little apartment, want to stay here, but we're not going to win alone. I learned that when I had to have, eventually after that whole AC fiasco, I had to call somebody, right? So,
right. You're like, this shit is not going in the window, not off my lap. It's not.
Oh my God, I'm so hectic right now. A crew of my friends, right now as we speak, one created a spreadsheet of support because I was so busy. People are ordering me groceries, ordering me food, dropping my favorite cold brew.
I hope my team is listening to this bullshit. Go ahead, tell me about it. I hope so.
Dropping my favorite cold brew off in front of my door, just like knock, knock, it's there. You don't even have to say hi to me. Right? I needed like running errands for me, texting me to say like, are you drinking water? Are you drinking water? What do you need today? Right? So I think, and that's because like, yeah, I've shown up for them too, but it's also like, that's how we're going to win. Now, what did it take? It took me to ask, but it also took them to know like where I'm at in my asking journey. So it took a friend being like, are you ready to ask for help? Are you ready to ask for help? And then on maybe like the second or third try, I was like, yes, I'm ready to ask for help. So I make it difficult. But these people are holding me the fuck up. And for some of them, I think they're like, I'm okay with my movement contribution being making sure that I'm supporting you well.
I hope someone who's watching writes that down. I'm okay with my movement contribution making sure that you are taken care of well.
That's right. Like that's just the and I think that's why and how we all have a role in this. Right? That's how we all have a role. No, everybody doesn't have to be at the protest. Right? Someone gets to bring the cold brew.
First of all, I'm not even going to sit here and shake my head and not everybody needs to bring the cold brew because I've tried it. I've done the nitro freeze at Dunkin' Donuts. I hate it here. I don't want to talk with y'all about y'all single individualized bottles with your pretentiousness and your fucking 2 steps down from kombucha drinking. I don't want to talk about it.
Look, some of us
seltzer water is next on the list. Yes.
You don't like seltzer?
I feel like it tastes like hot ass and static. That's what it tastes like to me. Ada is so mad at me right now. You're like, I hadn't considered.
No, I love seltzer.
You love hot ass? Okay, all right.
Look, we could all have our preferences, honey. But no, I do. But it's also like, I mean, like some of it is also like an explore, like what I'm trying to remember what year. Yeah, I'm about 10 years sober at this point. So like I had to discover some tastes, right? And
You were
like,
like, malt liquor is not for me anymore.
yeah, it's not because you know what? Those days were wild, right? Those days were wild. I now know like how I got places because sometimes back then I didn't know.
Mm.
I'd be like, well, what borough do I think I'm in? Okay.
Like on
Right?
Hustlers when they were like, where do you live? He's like, Brooklyn. Gotta do better.
Right? No, I was really like, looks like Queens outside. All
Right,
right. So all of
right.
it, right? So I mean, that's a journey too, right? I don't know. We all
That's a
try.
journey. That's a journey.
Wait, can I ask you my question for you?
You want to ask me a question?
I want to
I'm
ask you a
here
question.
for it. I'm
Okay.
nervous, but I'm here for it.
No, I don't think it's that. So I think that like I'm still learning and understanding social media, right? Like I find it confusing. I find the relationships that people build through social media complicated. And I see you as someone who really navigates it well. So, so I want you to talk to
It's
me.
not funny, but it's just laughable.
I want you to talk to me about the choices of what you post and like kind of like if you were to talk about your relationship with social media, how would you explain it? Like, what do you use it for? What do you not use it for? Those kinds of things.
It's interesting that you asked me the question. I won't say the person's name because I'm trying to maintain stories without breaching, confidentiality. There was a person who reached out to me. She has almost 500,000 followers, and she just hit me up one day this week and was like, just want to reach out to you and see if you're doing okay. And I was like, why? Like, and so we hopped on the phone and I told her some things. I said, I really struggle with this kind of connection. Because I don't know what it means when people who have larger platforms than me want to befriend me or want to do a check-in or tell me that they're a safe space for me to divulge information. I said, because whenever I divulge information, that sort of thing then gets weighed and then put back out to the universe outside of our private conversations. And so I use my platform as my own personal exploration of the things I would have said to people in private. So that way, no one can ever regurgitate. It comes back to a trust issue for me. No one can ever regurgitate something I said and try to spin their own narrative on it. I said what I said. It reminds me of Egypt's pre-K teacher. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. Like, or if you do, you just move on and don't fuck with me. So a lot of times, before I became an activist, my social media was still that place. Like I was going to sound off and say whatever it is I wanted to say from my soapbox. Now that I'm somewhat of you just have to say the manifestations. Now that I'm somewhat of a political figure, it seems to me that people want more of my political commentary and don't realize that I am not just myself, I'm part of a team of people. There are 22 people in a group chat right now, making sure that not only is this conversation going the way it needs to go, and this is being broadcast, like there are people that help me be who I am. And so because I don't want to lose myself in that, I'm still going to be post activism DD. I mean pre activism DD. I'm still going to be pre poet DD. I'm going to be my full self. And if people don't like it, it's unfortunate. And I don't need those people to move forward with. Also, I have thought about what it does look like for me to focus more on what I call career activism,
Mm.
and I can't do it because I don't want activism to be my career. I don't want. I don't want to be the person who then becomes hypercritical of everyone and everything If I see something and I make a personal judgment, I keep it to myself. I also noticed that in my platform, I don't defend myself the way I used to. Before, people knew you fuck with the bull, you get the horns. And I don't feel I need to do that anymore. I'm okay with being the villain in a lot of people's stories because they needed me to represent whatever hurt and harm that has occurred to them multiple times before they even got to me. So yeah, sometimes I choose to be super personal and sometimes I choose to keep it professional. But I think I lean more on the personal because that is my transformation process. I wouldn't have learned a lot of things that I have learned. I wouldn't be who I am today if I wasn't posting on the internet super problematic shit and then someone came and corrected me. And I had to be my authentic self in order to even get that correction, right? Like I had to be the person who was super turfy, and I had to be the person, even though I'm queer and non-binary myself, I had to be the person that was like, that doesn't make sense to me because I had no freedom, and no one gave me a box and was like, play in this and see what it feels like, right? No one gave that to me. I had to develop it through political ideations that people murmured on the internet, and then I was like, but what that mean though? Like, and who did you get that from? And then that's how I became politicized, was largely through the internet. It just so happened I still have connection with my community. And that's the last thing I'll say is that I am very fearful of becoming that sort of career activist where I am so far removed from the community that I'm talking at them or for them and not alongside of them. And so that's why I don't got a lot of followers. That's why, people can say it's because I'm toxic or I'm a ratchet bitch or whatever those things. And all that is probably true. And the reason why I don't have a following is because I don't spend my time talking down on other Black femmes in order to do a win. I don't spend my time denigrating people that are not part of my demographic. I just don't spend my time doing it. And I do it in my personal life, but I'm trying to match who I say I am. That is a constant process. I'm trying to match who I say I am.
Can I ask you follow-up?
I'm nervous now. Yes.
What won't you post?
What won't I post again? The time that I squirted and I took a picture of it because it looked like Antarctica. I will never do that again because can't believe you asked the question. I hope you got the real answer. I mean, I won't never do that again because the backlash that came from that, oh, this bitch is a hoe, which is all very valid and true, right? But I thought it was art, and I was like 21 and I was like, do y'all see this shit? This shit is it was perfectly Antarctica. And it took 11 years for me to live that down.
Ooh.
So I don't post personal things. I don't even post my husband because I don't trust that in this world where heterosexual cisgender men exist, that he not out here embarrassing me. I just be like, that's the nigga I'm married to. I mean, I love him, and that's the nigga I'm married to. I don't out here post my partners, whether it doesn't even matter their gender, because I don't want anyone to then build my timeline for me. Does that make sense? So It's interesting. People think, oh, Dee don't keep nothing sacred. But I actually do. I keep those I love close to pocket.
I love it. No, I know. I think of it as a stage, right? Like there's a stage in getting to know somebody. Like friends, I don't, like whatever, we can post. But I noticed I had a friend, we're not friends anymore. I had a friend where when I would become more visible, they would need to post a lot about our friendship. And then when I become less visible, they wouldn't. And
you see, I did the Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
Click.
Right? That shit's real. And I'm really clear with dates that I'm like, we post about this after we have a conversation that we're posting about this. Right? We just don't.
A lot of times I hear you. I don't post about other people without their permission. So if you see someone tag, we've already had a conversation, or I'm sitting in front of them. I'm like, I want to post this. Is that cool with you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like so I think that people get that conflated a lot. Like I don't post without people's permission. One. Two, the whole what you just said. So I want to talk about social capital.
Oh, okay,
Because you
yeah.
asked the question. All right.
Yeah.
So social capital is the thing that happens, once you're posting your think pieces and your processes and you're like, oh, I'm sharing this. And people are like, Jurisdiction is the page that I follow for transformative and restorative justice processes, right? And you're like, yeah, I only post twice a month though. So like, wait for it or whatever. But people are out here waiting for your hot takes. And when you give them, people want close proximity to you. A lot of times I think, am I allowed to say what I think?
You're allowed to say what you think. It's your show.
The fuck? A lot of times I think there are people in this life who say that they're not in competition with you or who say that they're rooting for you. And they may mean it. They may mean it. I don't think that they dismean it. But there comes a point, and I don't know what that point is because it's been with all sorts of people I've noticed, that they want the same things you have. And you could say to them, go out and get it, sis. And it's like, they're like, I can't do it like you do it. And so therefore you take my shine. Or they have to be connected to you in the post. So that way people know I'm shining over here too. Come check me out. And I did tell a friend of mine, I said, I don't check y'all's pages. And she was like, why not? Didn't you see what I posted? I said, no. Because I never want to. In 2017, I was accused of stealing someone's work. I said, I don't want to read y'all shit. I said, I would rather just, I said, I would love to know what my friends think. I was like, but it's like, I can't even engage. Like, I didn't see your photos of you and the nephew. I didn't see none of that because I don't ever want to be accused ever again of regurgitating something you said just because we are on the same trajectory. We're both Black femmes. We are both sharing the same lived experience in different ways, And this has also happened with other organizers. I apologize. And she knows I've said this several times before. There is an amazing writer. Her name is Asia B. Around the same time I wrote Mark Zuckerberg Hates Black People, she wrote a very similar article. And because I was in my ego, I was like, how dare you create an article and a change.org petition, knowing that I have 15,000 people on my change.org petition. And, Facebook is contacting me and I'm having meetings with them and how dare you? And then I thought about it like 6 months later and I was like, that woman had the right to write whatever the fuck she wanted to write about because she's also getting banned from it. Like, who am I? And like, why do we do that to each other? So I reached out to her and I was like, I'm going to say it privately to you. And I'm also going to say it publicly. I fucked up. It was uncalled for. And I was like, and I think that is taking accountability. I think sometimes, when you take accountability, people want you to continue to suffer anyways. You could say, I'm sorry, my next actions are changed behavior, and I'm going to really work on, showing up differently in this space. And people are like, no, we can't accept that. And it just be like, I accidentally spilled fingernail polish on you.
No, shit is so real. Like, I mean, I guess what I think about a lot, I have a real love-hate relationship with social media, which shows up in my presence.
Yeah, it does.
I have a love-hate relationship that like with different platforms. So like for a while, like I think because I learned Facebook first, it was easier for me. I just understood it. But then I was like, okay, it's bad. And then I tried Instagram and I liked it at first. I was like, there are no words. There are no words for people to brag about themselves. Right? And then I was like, in my latest piece, I feel like Instagram's a lie. Instagram is about beauty and about whatever else, and there's nothing wrong with beauty. I just wish people were more transparent, right? Like if you don't post, I love liberation, and then take a picture of your cleavage. Just say, look at my cleavage.
We do love liberation over here, though.
Right? And because I'm like, maybe I'm linear or literal, I'd be like, what?
You were like, bitch, how do mammary glands have to do with liberation?
Right. I would, and I would get like, and also because people are really, we don't have a good conversation around sizeism and ableism and colorism and all this stuff, right? So people are not praising this person's love of liberation. They're praising the way their body looks or their fashion or all these other things that aren't supposed to matter.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they're inherently competitive realms, and I think there's ways we can like play in different ways. Like, so my favorite is to like ask questions and try to have conversations because that feels better to me.
What question do you have for our audience today? I usually ask them to ask you questions. And
Mm.
it's so funny because one of the questions was, since you're not active on social media, which social media platform do you utilize the most and why? And then you just answered it anyways. So shout
Well,
out to Crystal for that question.
it is Twitter though. Twitter
I
lately.
hate it here.
Really? I
I
like Twitter
have a
more.
lot of followers on Twitter and I really don't know how to engage.
I don't know what happened in the last 4 or 5 months. I've begun to like Twitter. One, because it's more words. Two, I'm doing a lot of reposting or retweeting or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm asking questions, and then occasionally I put out some thoughts, right? And my thoughts feel like I'm pretty direct and pretty to the point, so they're just clear.
Right.
So Instagram, I have to like find the picture, blah blah blah. Like I get so annoyed by just engaging with it,
And
and I
the
don't.
and the also like the formatting of having to put the dot in between the
Yeah,
spaces, like
yeah, yeah. No. And what's my other issue? I hate uh I hate the pressure. So like
mm,
I stress myself. I took a couple days off after my birthday and stressed myself out so much because I still have not thanked everybody who said happy birthday on Facebook. I have not posted about my birthday yet. So I'm like, oh my God, all these people feel like I don't care about them. And I was
right.
like, the people who love me know that all I really want to be doing right now is sleep. And I'm going to sleep. And eventually I will post about this, that, and the other. So I don't want a world where it's like I have to show you what I'm doing if I don't want to show you what I'm doing.
Mm,
And it helps. It helps. It helps for so many things. But um, where I console myself. One of the things you were talking about was competition, and in addition to the um, how I console myself, which is slightly petty, is that
I'm here for, look, I'm here for it.
I am blessed to have a lot of ideas. I am blessed. I am prolific. Steal them. There will be another idea in 2 minutes. You can't steal them as fast as I come up with them. Right? And you're already showing me your range. You're already showing me your range. And once you show me your range, then I know how to avoid the situations I don't want to be in. So yeah, I've had people in my life who like mine our conversations for my ideas become their ideas, become their hot takes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not gonna do this no more. And it's what gets hard for me is that the performance of justice has become just as much right, just as important as actually doing the work. And in fact, sometimes more so. Sometimes I joke that to be a successful activist or to be a successful organization, you need like a fundraiser and you need a social media person. You actually don't need to do no work. And
I'm laughing because what happens when you're the I wish I was on my Lao Tzu shit. I wish I could create other leaders, but what something that you had said earlier in the broadcast, I say broadcast because I'm ready for mainstream. Something you had said in the broadcast was, and I just don't feel like people are gonna do it right. I'm like, you might disagree with me, which is fine. There
mm,
is a science to organizing, and the science
absolutely.
is so much So, like, to build tangibility, but also people forget about this other tenet of the art of the science of organizing, which is the art of organizing. And that's where the manipulation piece comes in. You have to be able to manipulate in order to shift people's thinking. And so, you know, Roderick Douglas and I were talking about this one time. I was like, you have to be the person who knows how to launch the fundraiser. You have to be the person who knows how to do the Google Doc. You have to be all of these people in one if you don't have a team. And most people don't have a team because of that competition factor. I have a team, but none of them do. They're all volunteers and none of them do what I do. Not one person. Not one person is interested in creating an organization or organizing. It's really people that just want to see me out here elevate my work to a place where it's recognizable by the people I've created that space for. And so it's interesting. I want to know something that has been burning on my chest to ask you, because you're also a political strategist. And so if you move from grassroots organizing and you also dabble in legislation, how do we, I've been seeing a lot of commentary on the internet, and I did share a photo that some people got upset by, but they'll be okay. I was like, who y'all asking to arrest Breonna Taylor's murderers? The cops?
Oh, yeah.
I'm confused. And I get it. You want people to rot in the same nasty ass places that they have Black and brown folks rotting at, right? And as an abolitionist, I'm like, if we have different systems to hold people accountable, I'm all for community accountability. I am. And I know that sounds radical because I'm not even going to say what I really want to say because I don't want Facebook to blacklist my account. I'm worried about Daisy October right now. So love her to death. And I'm worried about you, Sib. And I think that was very brave that she said that we should not be arresting the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor. We should be doing something else to them. And I thought that was very brave of her to say. Because sometimes an ass whooping is restorative.
I mean, I think it's, yeah, like, I mean, whether it's critical resistance or Miriam Kaba, there's some, like, we can't continue to bolster this system, right? And even in calling for the arrest of those officers, we're like legitimizing that system and like
we're saying it works.
Right, we're saying it works. Right? We know it doesn't work. We know that it makes people more violent. It doesn't transform harm. It doesn't end, right? Like, ending policing is what ends what happened to Breonna Taylor, right? So, no, I completely agree. And as like, because I was doing a lot of work in police violence. I love
when people are on my side. It only happens 3 times a year, so thank you. Thank you.
There are more people on your side. You just have to let us be on your side.
Oh, shit. Okay. I feel personally attacked.
Okay. You just have to let, right?
Go ahead.
I mean, so because many people don't violence hop the way I do. And so in the police violence, like, it feels so good to me that we're at the point now where we are talking about like arresting and prosecuting cops as being out of alignment with abolitionist values. That conversation hasn't always been where it's at right now. And people have not been ready to hear it. And there's a lot of people who are like, families aren't ready for it, survivors aren't ready for it. And I think that's not true, because so few families and survivors of police violence actually receive anything from the criminal legal system, and often receive more pain. So all that's to say, I mean, there's like 50,000 things to say. That's just me long-winded agreeing with you and hoping for the day for like the less we invest in that system.
Right.
The more
what does defunding mean to you? That's exactly what I want. Thank you. What does defunding mean to you? Yesterday I gave a thank you so much. She's such a good friend. She's pouring me more wine. I appreciate her. Thank you, Ada Ray. So she
See,
needs
you
to fix
have a
her.
team, like you just have your spreadsheet operates differently than mine.
My spreadsheet is fickle. I need a if anybody's watching, I need a sitter for tomorrow so I can teach my class. So there's that. What I think is amazing about this conversation is that folks are so tired right now that they're that I think we're willing to hear the conversation about what else can be done. I think we're willing at this point. And I say that because yesterday I was asked by the town of Arlington, Massachusetts, to give a speech, and I didn't have to do much because I've already given this keynote about moving the Black Lives Matter slogan beyond the banners, beyond the signs and the T-shirt and the wristband. How do we move that? And in it, I talk about the two water fountains, how one was for coloreds and one was for white folks. I was like, and now we've separated it by gender, right? I was like, why did it have to be separated by anything at all? Why couldn't you just have a water fountain that was existing, you know? And same thing with the bathrooms, but that's another story for another day. In that same vein, I was like, if we were having this conversation 3 years ago when I first wrote this keynote, the banner had been destroyed 5 times, just like the word black was either etched out or ripped out or, you know, vandalized in some way. I was like, it's interesting that we're here now at a point. I was like, and you've asked me to come knowing what I'm here to talk about. And yet it's still so radical for you to hear that we need to defund the police or we need to demilitarize ourselves, right? And I was like, defunding the police, if I could slow it down for white folks, is literally taking away responsibility because we pay them so much for all to do all the things. If we had to look at it from a logistical standpoint, these motherfuckers have to do everything from responding to ambulance calls to cats and trees, domestic violence, when it should be social workers responding to that. It could be someone, a nigga with a ladder, responding to the cat in the tree. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? They have, not that I give deference to cops, but I do have people whose professions are police officers in my family. And I realize that they have a lot of triggers for them coming at them. I was like, if you defund them and say these are now your list of responsibilities, and murder one is not on that list of responsibilities, what does it then look like? To address harm and violence as part of a team. Defund that part of policing, and also, I mean, I'm not a reformist, so there's that. But if I were to talk to white people about reform, I would definitely say that y'all need to take those funds, give them to community organizers, give them to mental health professionals, give them to medical professionals, so that way there's actual response. Drug counselors, domestic violence counselors. So there's an actual response that happens. Street workers, even there's an actual response that happens that could be tangible for the person who's experienced harm, because most cops are not called prior to the harm, they're called after the harm.
Absolutely. And I mean, there are people who specialize in domestic violence and sexual violence, or like, I have a long history in intervening in homophobic and transphobic violence, right? And the amount of funding and staffing that those programs have in comparison to the police, when we actually there are experts, right? Like, there are practitioners, there are people with deep experience. So it's not like this stuff isn't available to us, right? We have the police are not only violent, they're failing. And we're investing in a system, or white people are investing in a system.
And they sure enough are.
Because they're afraid of us. They don't want to defund the police. They don't want to defund the police because the police police us. Right? Like, it's literally, you know, so, and safety, lawlessness, fear, no. These, like, their investment in law and order is their investment in the killing of Black people.
I'm so appreciative you said that. I needed someone on my show to say that.
It is. That's like what the euphemism is for. That's what the system, we know that's what the system was developed for and about, right? Like, if we wanted to create a system to create, like, if we wanted to invest in the system to create safety, we've had plenty of time. This one failed. It's that simple.
Right.
That simple. Defund the police.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever thought about programs that you were involved of growing up? And when I say programs, I think about MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I think about DARE, like, and how it was always an officer that came to the school to instruct us in these programs, but it was never a substance abuse counselor, or it was never an actual mom whose child, had passed away due to drinking and driving. It was never that. And so that's all I'm saying is like, what does it look like if we actually invest in programs? And I was having a conversation with a Black-led nonprofit today, and they were just like, we have to fight so hard against these white nonprofits. And it's the white nonprofits that are organizing in our communities, and they aren't representative. And here we are, actual individuals that live in the community, and it's just so difficult to get support, whether it's resources or money or services. It's so difficult. But then I think about all the individuals who run nonprofits or foundations, and that their board of directors is all white. Them is all white. And they don't see a problem where they want Black folks to do the labor. I may be talking about my own day job, but it's fine. They want Black folks to do the labor of eradicating racism or spotting it. And then if I spot it and I tell you about it, it's like you still don't see it because you don't want to see it, because you would have to acknowledge what your part in it has been.
Have you seen that? There's that, what do you call that? Is it a framework? Is it the diagram, the problematic or the problem woman of color?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came from the UK, right? Yeah.
No,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm working on a nonprofit. It's taken me 2 years. I have like stories from so many Black women, and it's taken because I want to be intentional. Everything else I talk to white people about in order to move resources to Black folks. This is for Black folks. This is attacking white people, of course. Obviously, we're attacking the system of the nonprofit industrialization complex. And this is vindication for all the Black folks who have been churned through that system.
Oh, it's so real. I mean, we all I don't know. We could get into it.
I don't know.
No. Well, what's fascinating, right? So, right, vision change when we do anti-oppression workshops, right? And so it's always funny because we're all people of color. We're all, queer and trans people of color, Black-led, many Black people. So these white nonprofits, though, like, I would say we are in a moment of a high level of tokenization requests, right?
Ciao. Someone's shaking the table.
No, it's just real, right? Like, we're all white here, and we've realized it's bad, and we need an urgent workshop on anti-Black. Yeah, we need an urgent workshop on anti-Blackness. And I was like, this is not necessarily urgent to us, right? We're getting like so many requests a day on these like urgent anti-Blackness workshops, and this work is critical,
right?
But if y'all think we're gonna run ourselves into the ground having the same conversation with you that you don't actually want to have because you're guilty, right? We can figure out another way. Like, I was talking to somebody recently, and they're like, so our board's all white? And I was like, that's what boards are. It's like, boards are structures for resources and, right, fundraising, and nonprofits and foundations are structures for tax breaks for rich people, right? So to like think that boards and nonprofits will be separate from racialized capitalism right? Like, who has the power in racialized capitalism. So why would your board not mirror that? Yeah,
Right.
you actually have to work really hard to have this.
I have to quote you
separate.
on that. Thank you.
Right?
Come back to this and quote you on that.
Honey, so I mean, to be a progressive black, every progressive black person has a story about the nonprofit they survived and the one they almost didn't.
I'm gonna ask you my last question because I want to respect the space that we've built with one another. I also want to respect your time constraints and mine. I'm supposed to be teaching an anti-racism class tomorrow. I don't even have these niggas' homework together. It is what it is. We gonna figure it out.
Honey, I'm supposed to do 2 things after this, and I'm about to be like, I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see. We'll see. I tried.
So, a question that I ask every single guest on the show is a two-pronged question because I consider myself a complicated bitch. And the first question is there anything that you are surprised that I didn't ask you or anything that you felt like, oh shit, we should have actually covered that in this conversation? And then the second part of it is who would you like to see on the show if you watch the show at all?
Ooh, okay. Um, I I really love talking about organizing strategy, or like what are the strategic organizing moves for these times. So that I'm not. It's not a surprise, but that's something I love to talk about. And there's so many people to name, but I think a dedicated episode or series on Black conversations about violence against Black trans women, because I think, yeah, like I think it's just needed in our communities. Um, that's what whether it's like Elle or Raquel Willis or Lala Zanel or
Ella has been on the show, but I've asked Raquel, I've asked Laverne, I have reached out to some Black trans masculine identified folks as well. And it's just been the same with you. It's like, yes, let's get a date on the calendar, Sib. And then like, it's just coordinating people's schedules.
oh,
So
it's the schedules are. I mean, also because like one pandemic was hard enough, right? So when Black genocide was already happening before this,
right.
we have this pandemic, um, which I mean, like half the Black folks I know, including me, are high risk for COVID. So
Right.
then we have the uprisings. So it's just like a Black person with time on their hands right now. Like,
How can folks organize right now? Say they had no organizing experience. Don't talk. This is not even about established organizers because fuck us, right?
no.
We already fucked up. How do someone come into organizing, not engage with us, but also be aware or wary of us and do the work in a way that that's politically sound and safe? Ooh, I need more questions like that.
I think there's 2 ways. I would say one way for like an individual who's not as connected to other people. I think it's getting connected to some established organizations. So Movement for Black Lives has been putting out so many ways for people to get involved, from in their homes or like in person. So I would say, I think Mi Gente is doing incredible work, right? So I think like one, like go like, but I think the other thing is organizing is relationship building at its foundational root, right? A person who is an organizer or an activist that's without community is missing the basics. So, like, right? But it's true, right?
Okay,
like,
I'll allow it.
No, it's true though, because the truth is like, while movies about organizing and activism depict these like singular figures, the actual work is with a whole bunch of people, right? No one person won on any revolution, right? like literally the strength of all of our work. Like the reason the conversation around abolition is where it's at right now is about the sheer amount of people who won't let it be about anything else.
Right.
Right. It's an like there. So I think the other role is around like there's so much content online. There's like you can get politicized off of Twitter right now, right? So what are the conversations you're having? So like let's say you're a non-black person right now. What are the conversations that you're having with people in your life about what y'all want to do to address anti-black violence and anti-black repression? Like so there's two vehicles. One is literally like dinner table or your family Zoom thing or like with your pod, however you live in your life right now. And the other one is here's vehicles for established words, right? But if you are not involved right now, it's probably because you chose to, because there are options.
Just dab on them. It's probably because you chose it. Now, who would you like to see on the show? You said that you'd like to see Black trans women do either a series or like an individual show, maybe like a panel.
Yeah, like a panel around what do Black trans folks want from the Black community, from Black cis folks, to address the murder of Black trans women. I think that would be really critical. Because I think it's also to make sure that it's not just Black trans women talking about what's happening, right? What else do I want to? Who else do I want to see on the show? Do you know Kenyon Farrow?
No, I don't. Tell me all about them.
Oh, Kenyon. So he's a genius, and he's doing a lot of work. He used to be so Black gay man, did a lot of work with critical resistance back in the day. He used to be the director of Queers for Economic Justice. Now works at The Body. Does a lot of work around HIV/AIDS criminalization, has been making all these links around COVID criminalization, HIV/AIDS criminalization. Brilliant political mind, also a DJ. So, hilarious. So y'all,
we love funny here.
Hilarious, like catty when needed, like the appropriate amount of shade to go with the smart.
Yes, we need reads often.
Yeah, that's yes.
Okay, Kenyon. Okay. So I will reach out to that person. Also, Lawrence just joined. Can you please give a shout out to Lawrence? I feel like it's going to make his entire day.
Hi, Lawrence. I'm so excited to like Facebook Live meet you. Thank you for being on the show with us. Thank you for watching. Yeah, I don't understand that I have political reach like this. So
Lawrence follows you and also works at the Center for Story-Based Strategies and just loves your work. And so, yeah, I want y'all to talk. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Like the thing I shouldn't say that's true. I'm the only Ijerist. I'm very easy to find.
So Ijerist, thank you. So he's like, oh my fucking God, I'm crying.
Oh,
I love making an internet connection. So I just want to say, on behalf of my team, on behalf of myself, this was the lunch I have been desiring to have with you for so many years. And I feel like this is going to be one of those conversations where I can go back to and watch and absorb and like write down the note that I wasn't sure of what you said. But it's not even the content. It's the curation, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you provided that here. I just appreciate being in the same space with you and being able to talk about the things I've been wanting to talk to you about for years. So I resend my comment. I look to you at times for really thought out, fleshed out pieces and morsels and chunks of flesh about how we can maneuver ourselves in this world that we say that we've allowed our ancestors to create, and how do we continue curating it so that way our children also have legacies that last, right? And this has just been it's been a very meaningful conversation. And I cannot thank you enough. So thank you for appearing on this episode of The Full Set because thanks.
Oh, I'm so appreciative. I'm so grateful. Like I don't know. I think like the first time we interacted in social media line, I was like, "Oh, you know who I am? Oh, wow." Um, and I think like if there's a guiding principle I have, that's well, okay. So I'll show you. So I
Okay,
have
so
a I
let
have
me
no, I have
see.
I have a tattoo of
What
the.
is it?
It's the Middle Passage,
Okay.
and uh, it's got a dual rationale for me, right? Like, so on one hand, it's about um, this is what people did for you to be here, right? Like somebody survived this. And then the funnier version is like, bitch, your day is not that bad. That's a bad day. Um,
I'm glad someone's got a funnier version of the Middle Passage because I got a tramp stamp, true to form and fashion. I mean,
hey, no, I'm just like, that's a hard day. But
right.
my through line, or like all of us, like the Black folks who made it, like people did tremendous things just to survive that journey. And so I feel like I believe in like being in integrity with that types the generations of fights, right? Like so like the generations of struggle. So I'm in integrity with whatever that ancestor of mine did to survive that journey. And I'm trying to do right by them, right? And to do right by whoever I'm an ancestor to, you know?
Can I ask you one more question? I know it was the end.
Yeah.
What is your spirituality?
Ooh, I'm still figuring. So jokingly, I call myself Catholic. Um,
Bush?
Catholic, like just a little bit. Um, and so it's a little fascinating. It's uh, my mom's Catholic, Louisiana
Okay.
people. That stuff makes sense. What it um,
Is there syncretism with your family with Catholicism and hoodoo?
there is some blending. There is some blending.
We can answer this question. There is,
but no, but who will talk about it, all that.
okay.
So it's a little bizarre. I'm a Lent to Easter Catholic.
Okay. I know what that is.
Right? Like I believe I think of Lent, I think of it as a transformation season. I use that period of time. You know, like some people are like, I'm giving up coffee for Lent. Da, da, da. I like think of it as like what can I change about me to move myself closer to my values?
Right.
Um, I believe in a higher power because I think it kept me alive because I really did some messy shit and I'm still surprised. Um, and everything else I'm in an exploration around, right?
Are
Everything else.
you exploring your diastema?
Wait, what's that?
The gap between your teeth?
Ah, you know, like gaps are just so real, right? This gap, because I had braces at some point. I had braces to no, but like it's like, bitch, nah, I'm here. I'm here.
I took mine off after a year and I still have one crooked tooth and then the gap. I didn't get it bonded and I refuse to wear a retainer. So this is just the smile that I have.
Same, same. But like, I don't know. There's all this like, what do people say about folks with like
We are
they're all
sexy and intelligent individuals, which is all I absolutely do.
yeah, accurate. So yeah, I think no, I love the gap. I've learned that like all of my attempts to eradicate it,
Right.
also white supremacist culture. So you know.
Okay. Thank you so much for appearing on this episode of The Full Set. If there's anything I could do for you ever, including just being silent and listening,
Thank you for having me. Thank you for knowing about my work and yeah, I so appreciate it.
I hope that y'all have a great evening. This has been another fabulous episode of The Full Set. Peace.
Wow.